Hello, welcome to Conversations with Educators. I'm your host, Jerome Ellison, and today I have a special guest, Monique Jerry. Thank you, Mo, for coming on the show.
Of course, no doubt. I'm always here to help you and support you.
Thank you. Cool. So I'm going to start off with a quick game. This is a little game I play called Start, Bench, and Cut. So I give you three options. They can be people or things, and you have to pick one to start. It's like a team. That the best thing has to start. The second best gets on the bench. They're not starting, but they're still on the team, but they're on the bench. And the third best gets cut from the team. They can't make the team this year.
It's
All right?
like basketball,
Like
right?
basketball, exactly.
Okay,
So
I
so
get it.
three things.
Okay.
Might be a tough one. So Michelle Obama, Beyonce, or Kamala Harris? Who do you start, bench, or cut?
Michelle Obama, no doubt. When you threw Beyonce in there, I was like, oh, cut. Michelle Obama,
All right.
definitely.
So Michelle starts. Who gets benched and who gets cut?
Michelle Obama starts. Bench, Kamala, Beyonce, cut.
So you're not in the beehive at all. No beehive.
Not at all.
All
Not
right,
at all.
I feel you. Okay. So these are some reflective questions. So the first one is, why did you become a teacher? What got you into the field of education?
I kind of fell into it. I was in school taking a lot of different things, and I literally did not know what I wanted to do. And I took an education class, and I was like, okay, this is kind of dope. And I got an A, and it just was effortless to me. So I just fell into it. It wasn't like a passion, and how people are like, yo, I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. I literally fell into it. And if I wasn't teaching, I don't know what I would be doing.
Wow. Do you remember the title of the class or the course?
I don't remember.
No?
I just remember I was going to Baruch. And like I said, I was taking a lot of different classes, macroeconomics, sociology. And I just took this education class, and I was like, oh my gosh, I really like it. And from then on, it's been my
Wow. Shout out to Baruch College. That's a big deal. That means that class had an impact on you, for real.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So now that you are a teacher, right? And we know the field is very difficult, especially now. So besides these times that we're in now, which is probably the most difficult, what has been your biggest challenge as a teacher, especially as a Black woman teacher,
You know what? It's funny because when I first started teaching, I was I live in Brooklyn, so I was in an urban area. I guess you would consider it the hood. And wanting to do so much, but having limited resources and feel like you're fighting against the system and really trying to make parents buy in. You know what I mean? It's like selling something and really trying to hook parents. It was just so hard. I think teachers that work in the inner city deserve so much more respect than teachers who work in more affluent areas, because you're already coming from limited resources. So for me, that was by far the hardest.
Yeah, that's a great point. I feel like resources, like this, the inequity in resources in certain schools, even certain public schools compared to other public schools, that has to be fixed, because we can't all be in a system and some kids have laptops, or some kids have pencils and paper and hand wipes and sanitizer, and some don't, and especially during these times,
And it's just funny because, where I teach now is definitely an affluent area, and 10 minutes away, you're talking kids are struggling for like pencils and books, and resources are so limited. I feel like New York City education is a tale of two cities. It's the have and have nots, and it's all about your address. And if your address happens to be in a poor inner city neighborhood, your child is not guaranteed a quality education. And that really drives me insane, and the inequity angers me.
Yeah, and I think nowadays, especially with so many people losing their job and people can't afford meals and no money in the economy, I feel like the wealth gap is going to be even larger, and I think I'm hoping that our new administration, Biden and everyone comes in, and I think they're aware of it, but hopefully they can do things to kind of lessen that gap and support some of the schools and communities that are struggling tremendously right now, because we need it. If we don't fix it now, it's only going to make things even worse and worse in our cities, especially our inner cities, when that gap is obvious. Like you said, 10 minutes away, 10 blocks away sometimes. It's like night and day.
And I feel optimistic. I was watching something the other day, and this woman was talking about reparations, and she said, if we're going to talk about reparations, we have to come from the mindset of education. And one of the things that we have to do is guarantee a quality 4-year at high college degree, like a path to college degree for all African Americans. She said, because I'm like she called herself a book nerd. And she was like, I truly believe education is the path to middle class. And I've always felt that way. But the challenge is, how do you get people who've never seen anyone succeed from education, where everyone in their community is a high school graduate, or maybe they just have a job, which I'm not knocking, but how do you get them to buy into, education is key? You know, like this, you want to be middle class, you want to extend that gap between the haves and the have-nots. It's education. How do I get people to buy in when everybody in their hood is like, school, man, that's gone. It's a hard sell.
Yeah, and then you add that on top of kids from Black and brown kids not being supported as much as they should be in the schools, or their schools in their neighborhood not being supported with resources. Get them to buy into it, but then you also have to support them and help them learn throughout the year so that they can actually get a degree, get that education that they need. So it's so many tiers, there's so many different angles that's coming at the problem that we have to address. And I think part of it is one part of it is having more Black and brown teachers in the classrooms. I think people who come from the community, people who kids can look up to and see that walk like them, talk like them, look like them, and they can say, you know what? I'm not going to follow someone that's telling me that education isn't important. I'm going to follow my teacher or someone who I admire, someone who I see every day, who came from the neighborhood that I came from, but also showed me that education could be a way out of my circumstances. So I think we need a big push to get more Black and brown teachers in the classroom. And even honestly, I think especially more male figures, because, especially our boys who struggle in the school system. Let's be honest, a lot of fathers are not at home for many different reasons. Some of them, because of the system, has been sent to prison, or et cetera, et cetera. So when we have more male figures, even it can be teachers, they can be mentors, they can be deans, there's men in the school buildings to support kids, and especially our boys and Black and brown boys and girls, to show them that this is, even if they didn't make it through, they can talk to our kids and show them that this is why it's important. Get your education, value this. Don't worry about what everyone else is saying. This is going to help you and your family overcome some of the obstacles that you're facing. I think we need more of that.
It's so funny because as you was speaking, I'm just like, I've always felt that way. Like the problem is, like you're a young African-American male and you have a white woman in front of you who's coming with all of these biases, and what your home situation is. That you may have a mother at home, but where is that Black man? And I wish that more Black men would go into education. I just wish that they would, instead of looking at as a nurturing career, look at it as a career for like survival. Like you are doing what's necessary to make sure that our young Black men are growing up valuing like the things that are important. Because at a certain point, you're hearing it at home from a mother, and then you go into school with a white man. Where is that African-American brother that's going to say, yo, come here, let me pull your collar and tell you what's really good. Like, you think the streets is good? Nah, the streets, it's only two ways, either jail or death. Let me show you another path. And I just wish more Black men would go into education, or if not even go into it, just be mentors, even if it's in a sports, or just be mentors, be there for young Black men, because I'm worried most about them, because girls are going to be okay. They are, like, we have an advantage. Like, I don't have to worry about being targeted, but I worry about young Black men, like who's pulling them by the collar and telling them, yo, I got you. And we need that for them.
Need more, for sure. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. My next question now that we talked about the challenges, or your biggest challenge, what is the thing that puts a smile on your face? What has been your most favorite moment as a teacher that when you think about it, always puts a smile on your face?
You know what? I teach second grade. And there always comes a point in the year when you've transcended being a teacher, and the kids will say, "Mommy," and then they go, "Oh my God, my bad." And I'm like, no, because that lets me know, it touches my heart, because you see me as something other. And once you see me as a mother figure, I know that I'm in your heart. Like I have a special place, and it touches me, and it just makes me feel like, wow, like that for me. And it's happened numerous times, and I'm like, oh my God, I take it as such a compliment.
I love it. I love it. And those kids, especially the younger kids, first, second, third grade, they're so pure, right? So no matter their race, no matter their background, no matter where they come from, they, at some point, if you're a good teacher, they see you as their mom, because they feel that care, they feel that nurture, they feel that love that you have for them. And it's just like that motherly thing, or like that nurturing thing that they just gravitate towards. So I think that's great.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And it just makes me feel like, because I've had it from white kids, Spanish kids, or Black kids, and I'm like, wow, you see me as your mom. So that means they have a certain respect for me, and it always touches my heart.
I love that. I love that. That leads right into my next question, right? So if you reflect back to your experience from K through 12 when you were in school, right? Was there a teacher who gave you that same feeling that you said you give to your students? Who was your favorite teacher and why?
You know what is so funny? Because I can't speak about K to 12 because I went to Catholic school and I had nuns. And believe it or not, I talked a lot in school. So I got in trouble. I can't say, but if I think back, it was a professor in college, and I'll never forget, I took a course. It was called African American History, and his name was Professor Lewin. And I was like, you are so dope. And you know what I always remember about him? I think about the fact that had I never gone to college, I never would have experienced a Professor Lewin. And I think how many young girls or boys will never have that experience because they've never been to college. Like all of my teachers have always been nuns. And then I went to a high school, I guess you could say was pretty white. But my first African-American teacher, and had such a profound, I remember him to this day with great fondness. He was a strong, proud Black man. And I remember him. And I just think how many young children won't have that because they won't go to college. And it breaks my heart because you should not have to wait to go to college to find that person who speaks to who you are.
I love that. And that ties directly back into us saying that we need more Black teachers, whether male or female, in the school system, because that experience can change your life. I remember every single Black teacher I had, and especially the Black male teachers, they stood out. I had a few who said, they cared enough, and they said a few things to me that inspired me and made me want to be more, or just seeing them in that position, seeing how respected they were, seeing how educated they were, inspired me to want to be more, and showed me that there was opportunities to be more besides what I saw in the neighborhood all the time. So again, I agree. Definitely. I agree. Yeah. Next segment I'll say is called Each One Teach One, right? So in your experience, based on your experience, what is one piece of advice you would give to a parent to help their child, a parent who reaches out to you to get advice to support their child during these times right now? What is that advice that you would give to them? Just one piece of advice.
I think, I think twofold. First, it would have to be emotionally, like you have to know where your child is at. And just for me, it's always, this may sound corny, but reading is the simplest way to open a child's mind. And it's something that's free. You don't have to go buy a book. You can go to the library. You can get a library card. I would just say, read to your child. Read with your child. Expose your child to things. Like, instead of always being on the TV or PlayStation, just read with your child and connect and really find what interests your child, and then open the world for them through that book. I'm a book nerd, and I will tell anyone. And for me, reading is the cheapest form of escapism. But it opens your mind to so much. So just read with your child. Like, that's it.
I love that. I love it. And I think the one thing that really stood out is if you talk to your child and find out what their interests are, because there's books on everything, right? So if you find out their interests and you try to find books that they're interested in, that can catch them. They can gravitate right away and start reading, and then they can open up their perspective to reading a lot more different genres and text because of that entry point.
And I think now it's a good time to be Black. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no reason why your child is not reading about Malcolm X or anybody, because there are so many books. Like right now, we are the ish. And everybody, they're trying to apologize for the way they treated us. And there's books about how to be a non-racist in this. And they are flooding the market because there's that white guilt. So it's a good time to be Black, and it's a good time to just find a book and just spark your child and like, yo, what do you like? Who do you want to be? And I'm gonna help you be that and just shape you through books. And just open your mind.
I love that. And it's another thing about nowadays is the truth is coming out as far as the information on our history, right? There's a lot of more access to the real knowledge on who we were, where we came from. There's a lot of Black empowerment information out there that I didn't have growing up. Like, I knew nothing about some of these people. I wasn't taught in the school system. That wasn't in our textbooks. Right. And we didn't have the internet. So I think now if you have YouTube, you have books, you have libraries, you have a lot of resources to really show your kid, whether they're Black or brown, their history, and then use that to empower them with the truth. And then they'll start to see how great they are, and that will help motivate them to push through. Because, you know, in the past, our truth has been held back. And I think that we have more information now.
It's so funny because as you were speaking, I'm older than you. And I remember when I was growing up, I watched Roots with my mom and I was about 10. So I'm aging myself, whatever, I don't care. But I remember having discussions, and I remember saying to my mother, oh my God, I'm so glad I'm Black. And I remember that. And I'm like, now is a time, I think, when if you're Black or brown, if you're a person of color, it's a good time because there are so many resources. Like, there are Black dolls and Black puzzles and Black this. Like, there's no reason why your Black or brown child does not grow up with a sense of empowerment. And I'm entitled to this because my people created this. There's no reason. And if you don't instill that in your child, then shame on you.
That's a fact.
Shame on you.
That's a fact.
For me, that's fact. So maybe like when you ask me, like, what's something that I would tell my child, like, if you're a person of color and you're not raising your child to believe that they are a king or a queen, you're doing your child a disservice. This is ours. We created this. And you have to go out. I want every Black child to feel like, I own this. I can do whatever I want because I come from greatness, and we have to instill that in our children from day one. Let them believe that, yo, this is for you. This is not for them. You want it, go get it. Go get it. Get that cake. That's what I want them to believe. So yeah, for me, yeah. And then show them
positive Black and brown role models, because there's people who've done it, right? So like we said, growing up, they didn't show us the people who did it. They didn't show us the people who overcame and made it to be great, right? So they took that out of the history book. So if we don't see that there's a possibility, we don't see the opportunity, and we won't strive to it. But now you have your Oprahs, you have your Kamala Harrises, you have your Barack Obamas, you have your people who've overcame, and we can follow in their footsteps to show that we can reach the highest level, and there should be nothing stopping us but our own mentality.
And it's not even, and I love that we got our Kamalas and our Beyonce and Jay-Z, but what about just celebrating an ordinary dude in the hood who may work for MTA and is married to his Black wife, has his beautiful Black children, has never been to jail, and is doing the right thing? What about celebrating him? And it's like the fireman, the busman, the security guard. What about those men who are holding it down for their families every day and come home and show up? We need to honor them and celebrate them. And I think too often the images we see, everybody want to be Jay-Z, Kanye, Yeezy this, Yeezy that. And it's like, they are one in a million.
Yeah.
You want to look at the good Black man? Look at the good Black man who you see with his kids. Look at the good Black man who's coaching his kid or mentoring somebody else's kid. That's greatness to me.
I love that. I love that. That's so real, because that's another way how they got us too. They start to make us, catch us young, and start to make us want to become rappers, and make us want to become drug dealers, and make us show us these movies that we should glorify and lead us in those ways. But we're not leading us to people who are holding down their families and people who are surviving and making it through on a regular basis, like your average Joe. I love that. I love that.
Right. And for me, that's where it's really at. Like, everybody wants to be the next, I'm gonna be the next LeBron. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're not. And I got nothing but love for him, but he's a phenom. Yeah. That's reality. And he's a phenom because he's one in a million. Look to just the Black man in the street who's just doing his due and holding it down and respects himself as a man. That's who I want to emulate.
I love that. I love that. We can leave it right on that note. The last segment is called Choose Your Teachers Wisely. So this is your chance to give a shout out to anyone. It doesn't have to be a teacher. It can be a friend, a book, a podcast, a TV show, a movie, something that has educated you and inspired you to be a better person. What's that one thing you want to give a shout out to?
Oh boy, choose your teacher wisely. Oh my God, it's so many people. Definitely Professor Lewin. Like, he was my first. It's Professor Lewin. He was such a strong Black role model. I don't know where he is. I remember I first went to school at BMCC in Manhattan, and he was so dope, and he just opened my mind to everything Black. And that's when I was like, I just ate it up, because I didn't know our history. And it was like opening a floodgate for me, and I've read everything. So definitely it would be Professor Lewin. I don't know where he is. God bless that man, but definitely Professor Lewin.
Shout out to Professor Lewin. If you're watching this, shout out. If you know him, anybody's watching this, please send him this, because he deserves his flowers. He deserves his flowers for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mo, for coming on the show. I love your energy. I love the passion. It was so much great stuff in here. I appreciate you so much for being a great teacher.
Of course, no doubt. Stay well, stay positive. I'm so glad. Wish you nothing but success. And I always got nothing but love for you. Thanks, Rome.
Thank you. Thank you guys for watching. Stay blessed.
Thank you.
Remember,
take care. Bye.
Education over everything.
Okay.
Bye.